You're tuned into kpod. It's Life in Korea with your hosts, Scott, Adam, and Phil.
It's kpod, Life in Korea, the podcast that brings you some of the people living and working right here in South Korea. I'm one of the hosts, Scott. Sitting across from me, as always, is Phil. Phil, how's things?
It's great, Scott.
And sitting right beside him is Adam. Adam, how's things?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And this week, we've got a special guest on the show. We have the author of a new book coming out called Cultureshock Korea, a survival guide to customs and etiquette. And I believe this is a book that's been around before and is coming out. It hasn't been out in a while. So the author is John Bocskay. Is that correct?
That's right, Scott.
How's it going, John?
Good, man.
Good.
The boss.
And when did you first come to Korea?
I actually remember the day. It was October the 7th, 1998, when I came. I think I remember it because my contract ended on the same day, and I was looking forward to it for a couple months. So I think that's why.
Waiting the days.
Yeah,
what area did you move to first?
I lived in Ulsan for a year, working at a hagwon. So yeah, I was counting the days toward the end of that. But
Maybe not the best experience there.
Oh no, it wasn't terrible. But I was just looking to do something else. 1 year was enough. And
Do you remember what originally brought you to Korea?
yeah, I think it was a mixture of curiosity. I had kind of the travel bug after college. I traveled for about a year and went back to New York and was working and I just didn't feel like I wanted to be there. And then the other part of it was just trying teaching. I wanted to give that a try without committing to a master's degree, and then finding out that I hated teaching. So I just came and took a job for a year, and I've been here quote unquote for a year ever since.
Also, you saw the Remo Williams movie, right?
That's an old one. Yeah.
That's what brought him to Korea.
Scott probably remembers. He's an older guy.
So
he's almost as old as me.
That's the reason I came to Korea.
So after Ulsan, did you return to Ulsan or did you move to a different city?
I left Ulsan. I wanted to work in Busan. Like that year, I'd visited Busan a couple of times. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And so I was just looking for a job in Busan, and I was lucky because the timing worked out well. I finished up in October, and the university started hiring around that time, November. So I just kind of hung around for a while. I think it was like couch surfing for a month or two, and then went to this job fair and got a job. Pretty easy in those days because most people were leaving Korea after the Asian economic crisis.
Okay.
So like basically if you were here, you had a job. So I got a job in Busan, and then that was 2000. I moved there, and I've been living there ever since.
So you've been there for 17 years?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Busan's great. I love it, yeah.
Busan, yeah, I'd say Busan is my favorite big city in Korea.
Me too, yeah.
Sure. The author of the new version of Cultureshock Korea.
Yes.
So let's get into a little bit about this book.
Sure.
For starters,
Yeah.
what's the book about? Not in terms of what you've written, but I know it's been around. I have seen that book in
What's the
2012, I think was the last one I saw.
Yeah, Culture Shock. Well, the Culture Shock is a series put out by a company in Singapore called Marshall Cavendish, and they have books for about 70 or 80 countries and a few major cities. And what they are more like guides for people who are going to be living in a country as opposed to traveling. So they go into a little more depth on things like culture, history, food, the things that you would need to know more, like living in a place, and like less to do with like what's to do for fun, the kind of things.
So they do other countries?
Oh yeah, there's about 80 or so.
So like Culture Shock country.
Culture Shock India, Culture Shock Japan, yeah. A friend of mine just wrote Culture Shock Vietnam, so there's probably about 80 of them or something. So yeah, as you said, the last time they put out a Korea edition was 2012, and they go back to their 90s. Actually, when I came to Korea, one of the first books I got my hands on was the then current edition of Culture Shock. Yeah.
All right, so getting back to your book here, how did you get involved in terms of becoming the author of the 2017 version of Culture Shock Korea?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. It's actually a story. Where to start? Well, I'd been blogging and writing for local magazines like Busan Haps and mainly that one, and then mainly for free. And it's that old thing about writing for exposure. Everybody's like, "Oh, you work for exposure," and writers and artists, musicians, everybody jokes about it.
I definitely know that.
Yeah, but it really helped me in the end, because what happened was I'd been doing that for a few years, and I guess when the editor was looking for somebody to write it, she was just contacting bloggers, people who were writing about Korean culture. So I got an email through a blog that I actually had been defunct for about a year, that had been writing for, and asking me, would you be interested in doing it? So I was like, yeah. So I mean, it was kind of a the editor of Busan Haps, he likes to use this story now as justification, for not paying anyone. But he's a nice guy. He's like, see, exposure really is worth something. It really does have value. So really, that's how it came about. Yeah, I just got an email one day.
Yeah. So you're the author of the entire book?
Yeah, we started from scratch. The old one, I mean, as you know, like Korea changes so much, and obviously things like history and food and the basic roots of the culture don't really
historical
change.
Facts.
Yeah, but we basically just started from scratch. I just started completely over. I just referred to the old book just to see what kind of things they included, but as far as the
you wanted to keep it separate.
Yeah, well, I just started over. Well, I asked the editor initially. I was like, "So am I revising the old one? What am I doing?" She's like, "No, you're just writing a new one." So I just started over. New images. The series itself got like a facelift. They changed some design features. They have a lot of illustrations now and more pictures than before.